Yo, what's going on, friends? How's it going? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. As always, my friend, I do hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that. And yes, we are going to have some fun in today's video. Everyone's been rightly excited about Chelsea moving forwards. A great young squad trending in the right direction. Of course, currently champions of the world and will be for another 4 years. Lovely stuff. But there's players playing slightly new roles. Of course, we saw on the Club World Cup final, there was excellent innovation from the Chelsea manager that since lots of people, analysts and content creators have spoken about. But will he take that into next season? Because he himself said in the Club World Cup over in America, they are trying new things for the next campaign. Of course, we've seen additions like Joao Pedro, Liam Delap playing, even a little bit of Dario Asugo and stuff like that. We are yet to see Jamie Gittins, and after a whole host of exits, we are expecting 1 or 2, maybe even 3 more additions into the Chelsea squad. Of course, now they have plenty of money to spend. So in today's video, we're going to have a look at some tactics, speculate a little bit on the shapes and formations we could see moving into next season and what we can look forward to. Of course, just as a little spoiler here, I'm basically going to play with the players we've got. I speculate on maybe a new goalkeeper. We may or may not get one. We'll speak about that another day. And I also have speculated on a backup to Marc Cucurella. Of course, we're looking at the likes of Jarell Hatto of Ajax. So we're going to look into it. We're going to talk about some numbers, or at least how Maresca wants to play. And it's going to be a lot of fun, friends. So thank you for joining me. As always, a little bit of fleeting quick housework. If you are a fan of the content, why not subscribe to this channel, Football Therapy? Dropping a like and subscribing is a nice and easy way to support your local content creator, Jan. 196,534 subscribers at time of recording. You can be part of that road to 200,000. Right, let's get into it. Alright then. First of all, let's look at the team overview of Chelsea last season under Enzo Maresca. As you can see here on this kind of spider chart on the left hand side of the page, the blue line is representing Chelsea and the grey is representing the Premier League average on certain metrics. Now, Chelsea scored more goals than the average, but they'd probably like to score even more. They've taken a lot more shots than the average, as you can see here on the right-hand side. So with that, you'd expect maybe some more goals with the amount of shots. Field tilt, as you'd expect, dominating in the opposition half. We're playing the game high up the pitch, high pressure, pressing, etc. Much more possession, as you'd expect. Good defense from Chelsea. Goals conceded. Why can't I get rid of this? There we go. Goals conceded. It's a further out line, but actually that represents. There you go. The average Premier League goals conceded is 1.47. Chelsea conceded 1.13 per game. We'd probably even like to get that down to maybe a goal per game. The only things that we sort of align with the averages are long balls and crosses, which of course is what you would expect. Certainly long balls, Chelsea want to keep the ball on the deck. They want to do short passing, and they don't want to lump it upfield like, Sean Dyche's Burnley, or indeed, a little bit more sophisticated like Thomas Frank's Brentford. And crosses. Now, crosses is probably because we don't have that. Had we signed an Osimhen the summer before last summer, we might have had more crosses into the box, but not so much this time round. Now, as you can see there, comparatively to the league average, Chelsea, pretty dominant, you'd have to say. But still, if you compare Chelsea not to the Premier League average, maybe to like Man City, they were slightly better. Liverpool, they were a lot better. And Arsenal, mostly better in some parts. So Chelsea will look to improve. And it will be looking to change some tactics. That seems evident. Now, before we play with some like formations and movements and stuff here, I do want to say, when Chelsea appointed Enzo Maresca, there was a great fear, well, maybe not great fear, but there was a speculation from Chelsea fans and indeed people from the footballing media at large that he was this dogmatic coach, this philosophical guy, my way or the highway, stubborn, dare I say. And although I remember, if you watch my content when we appointed him, I feared this, but I also welcomed it because my blood pressure couldn't take the chaos of Pochettino ball anymore, and the defensive record, etc. And I thought, well, more controlled football is better, right? And although, for example, the biggest comparison we could have made from that, our presumption would have been Maurizio Sarri's Chelsea, Sarri ball. Oh, when it works, it looks lovely, or it's really boring, but he did all right in the end. But was quite a divisive manager at Chelsea, wasn't he? I think probably largely because also he didn't ingratiate himself with the Chelsea fans, which is his choice. Anyway, turned out in the end, although there was some stubbornness from Maresca in certain ways of playing, he was like, well, if Sanchez kicks the ball long, I'm going to substitute him off. And then, of course, our best performance ever under him in the Club World Cup final, Sanchez is kicking long balls. He was sort of really, really adamant on inverting fullbacks, which sometimes worked, sometimes didn't. And then, of course, we've seen towards the end of last season, and indeed in the Club World Cup, no inverting fullbacks. We've seen at fullback starting in midfield, like Reece James, which, again, worked in the final against PSG in our best performance ever. So maybe, previous opinions on James starting in midfield had changed a little bit. Maresca always said he did it in Wigan, he's done it for England. I see him in the midfield for Chelsea. But I do speculate still, personally, we will see him in both roles, right back and central defensive midfield. But before, finally on this bit, I just want to say that he has demonstrated tactical flexibility and the will of tactical evolution. He hasn't just come out of coaching school, got that one championship job at Leicester and gone, this is how I'm going to play forever. No. I think he's learning. I think he's got humility as well. I think if he could do the first season again, he would have made changes. Maybe earlier, maybe. He certainly would have spoken different, I think, certain times in press conferences. Of course, the narrative changed as the season developed. And although he's not young, he's like mid-40s, he's green as a coach. And he's learning. And because of how the season ended, top 4 Conference League, and indeed Club World Cup, very impressive. And finally, looking like he's just sort of cracking how to get the best out of Palmer again. Not just putting him on the right wing like Pochettino has done, because of course this whole entire season that's just finished, opposition played differently against Palmer. It's about finding him the space again. Cole Palmer himself said, credit to the gaffer for setting us up in a way to find spaces for me, and I need to repay him with goals. So you heard it from the horse's mouth there. So here we go. I'm going to use just this website here, sharemytactics.com, because it was just an easy way to set up a lineup. So here we are. As you can see, I've put different, pretty much most of our squad, but I think players that are going to feature a lot. So Sanchez / new goalkeeper in goal. Then we've got here the back 4. I've got Cucurella, of course, his first choice and seems to play every single freaking game. Colwill, Benoit Badiashile. Now I've added Sarr there, even though I believe he's a right-sided right footer. But just because I'm stacking the names here, and I don't think he's going to be first choice. Benoit's already spoken about wanting to stay at Chelsea. I do actually think Maresca likes him. So I'm sort of keeping him as the backup left centre-back for the moment. Chalobah, Tosin and Fofana as the right-footed right centre-back options. And of course, right back, I've put Gusto, who's won the hearts and minds back with a lot of Chelsea fans as a conventional right back. Not as in inverting to CDM or right number 10 pocket. A conventional right back. You know, he gets assists. He's got it again in the final. He's never going to get that goal, but tactically he can set up. And I've put Josh Achiampong there as well. Josh, of course, and there's a chance, you know, he could also, of course, go out on loan. I also think Tyreek George might go out on loan. You might notice I haven't put him here, but I'll be very happy for him. I'm just running out of space. Josh, of course, can play centre-back, or he can play right back. Of course, if we do play the right back, then that sort of comes into the back 3, which we might see. So we're going to play a few different positions. Caicedo, world-class central defensive midfielder with the backup of the deputy of Asugo. We've got Romeo Lavia, Santos, and of course Reece James, who we saw play really well there in the final. So James can be playing up, listed as both right back and of course central defensive midfield here. Now, in the number 10, which could be the left pocket or the right pocket, I've got Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, of course, Esteval Willian, and Joao Pedro, the Swiss Army forward who can play in loads of different positions. Right wing, Palmer, Neto, who is, remember this, we forget, if it's a conventional right wing width holding role, Neto, that's his favourite role. and Esteval as well. I'm not putting Esteval as a starter, first choice, any position yet, because it will take him time to settle in, of course. Left side, I've put Jamie Gittins, Joao Pedro, and Pedro Neto. Now, of course, Palmer absolutely could be here too, playing on the sort of inside thing. So we can absolutely swap a lot of these around. They're interchangeable. And of course, up top, we will play with a striker. At the moment, we're choosing first choice Pedro, Joao Pedro, not Pedro Neto. This is going to be a brain melter, isn't it? Liam Delap and Jackson. Jackson might be sold, of course. We'll follow that story here on the channel. Now, off the bat, different styles of players. Like, you can play touchline wingers. Gittins will be that. Neto will be that. Or you can play slightly inside forwards, like Joao Pedro probably won't have chalk on his boots. If he plays out wide, he'll probably play more inside. Similarly, Cole Palmer probably play a little bit more inside. And yeah, so different. It will be horses for courses. And fortunately, Enzo Maresca has proven he will make those changes. So if we are, for example, to, let's say, make a lineup here that we saw at the end of last season, we might see Cucurella bombing on, and we might see a back three formed here. And a Caicedo, these two here, central defence, and we will see, pour exemple, probably a box midfield being made here. So let's just say it would be Enzo Fernandez, or it could be Enzo Fernandez in the right pocket or left pocket. So Enzo Fernandez, right pocket there, Palmer there. And let's say, it says Gittins, but let's just imagine it's Neto, Cucurella holding the width there. And suddenly you've got your attacking five, which we saw before, and you've got your box midfield, which was used a lot by Enzo Maresca that season. And we've seen this a lot with all kinds of managers, often back three managers, obviously. In possession, it's a back three. Thomas Tuchel loved the box midfield. Even Conte with his wingers, you'd see it sometimes. So there's your box. You control the midfield, and the width is held by Cucurella, who has to do a lot of work. And Pedro Neto, of course, in this instance, who will do a lot of work as well. There could be different iterations, but that would be the shape. I think this would work really well with a false nine. Of course, Joao Pedro being that false nine, he can move literally everywhere between that bank of four. And if we were to use this formation, let's move over to the sort of resting out of possession. It will be almost certainly like a 4-4-2 out of possession. So let's just put Gittins over there. Palmer will press actually. So you might see something like, well, let's just say if it's Neto or someone like that, and then it's Esteval. It doesn't really matter, but you play a 4-4-2 out of possession and the front two press. Usually it will be Palmer with someone. So maybe it's like something like that, Enzo, and then Palmer with Pedro. It's just basically really two mobile forwards that can press the living so-and-so out of someone. Right, so what we're going to do, let's what we saw before, a lot of the sort of box midfield. Also, you'd see not just Cucurella holding the width, which worked really well at the end of the campaign, but you'd see, of course, sometimes a midfielder inverting into midfield to join Caicedo. I really want to see the end of that. We even see Caicedo starting at right back to invert to midfield to join Lavia, which would make Enzo and Palmer, and it would create a box midfield again in another way. And when the midfield inverts, Cucurella would move over to the back three, and then you'd have all the other forwards pushing on to make your attacking five. So there are different ways of getting his box midfield and five in attack. So let me just move things around, and we're going to talk about the potentially new tactics. Right, so as you can see, similarly loosely here, we've gone for a 3-2-4-1. The box midfield again, as you can see here. But it was Gusto bombing forward and holding width, creating space for Palmer, who's starting on the right, and was cutting in loads, scoring goals, yeah? We saw that a lot. Let's move this just a little bit up here. And then Gusto, he was literally getting to basically doing what he did under Pochettino, chalk on his boots, and then getting the ball in, whether it's crosses or dribbling, and or getting right to the byline and coming back in. False nine, Joao Pedro creating chaos, like you might see him. He wants the ball to feet, so let's put an arrow this way here. So he's doing like 1-2s with Cole Palmer. We saw him do a flick with Palmer, who went on there. A little bit more reserved action from Enzo Fernandez. Maybe that's because he's gassed in the final. And then width from it was Pedro Neto in the PSG final, but let's say Gittins. Now, I really want to talk about Gittins quickly because Seb Stafford-Bloor, German football expert for The Athletic, he spoke about Jamie Gittins, why he's such a great signing for Chelsea, and everyone talks about he's like the best dribbler in Europe. He's an amazing dribbler, but he does work very, very hard. Now, Pedro Neto, when he plays on the left, plays very well, but we're utilising his speed and his defensive tracking back. He's still obviously playing not on his native right wing, so Jamie Gittins, 20 years old, that is his side. That's where he wants to play. He's a left winger. He cost us 48 million quid. It's a big investment. We possibly are expecting him to be the starting left winger there. But we can be safe in the knowledge he will, despite getting forward loads and dribbling, he will get back. He will get back and sort of provide that left wing back cover. So you've suddenly got Gusto being the right wing back, Gittins being the left wing back. But what was really crazy in, for example, this game against PSG and what we might expect again, you've got the box midfield, you've got the back three, and in this instance, Cucurella is in the back three. But out of the three defenders, let's say call them centre backs, yeah. So Cole in the middle, knocking it about. Chalobah defending that right sort of pocket channel there very well. But Cucurella, yes, he was pushing up, but he was also playing really aggressively. So say, Gittins is doing wingery things, getting to the byline and trying to do dribbles and cutbacks for, Pedro is looking to chip one in the corner. Cucurella might be squeezing right up here, because he's obviously he did like inverting left back roles before, didn't he, into the CDMs. Caicedo might be just be mopping up all over the gaff. Palmer's being in number 10, he's free, he's just, he's combining with the boys, Gusto and these other attackers up here. And, obviously this space will be defended and occupied by the other CDM, let's just say Reece James, like in the final. So Caicedo mopping up Reece James, and then Cole, the left footer, will move over a little bit, and suddenly you've just got this sort of like narrow box here. Now, of course, 4-2-3-1 formations that have been in vogue for years, they'll have flying fullbacks, and you leave just two centre-backs that split anyway. So it's really kind of vulnerable. But in this instance, Thomas Tuchel brought the pragmatism, brought the defensive robustness with the, defend with a 5, attack with a 5. Suddenly, you can push Cucurella into this pocket here from this, ostensibly left centre-back role. Doesn't need to necessarily invert because you've got loads of players in the midfield now. Cucurella can come up here and either crash the box or just help them combine in the final third like that. And suddenly, you've got a party in the opposition half. Of course, if the ball breaks, you've got Superman. This is the kind of formation you really need someone like Caicedo or N'Golo Kante to play, because there'll be spaces in behind. You'll need someone to press and counter-press really, really quickly. You put the tackles in, make the recovery runs. You need guys that will, really combative defenders, like Colwell, like Chalobah, demonstrated that in the Club World Cup final. Should that happen, Cucurella needs to get back, which we've seen him do. He's got really good recovery. He's good at buying fouls. He can literally haul ass back. And it's very, very important as well, out of possession. If he catches a whiff that he's not going to affect the attack, you need Jamie Gittins to put the ruddy work in and get back, which by all accounts he will. And same we know with Gusto. Gusto we saw under Pochettino as a flying wing back, fullback. He can get back and defend there. So suddenly you're still playing with a box midfield a lot of the time, but you're putting Cucurella in positions where he will crash the box late, go centrally, but he will sort of maybe be that left centre-back again. And you've got no inverting fullbacks, and you're creating congestion in the middle, and you can create overloads on the wide flanks as well. Also, it's worth mentioning, let me just move this around quickly. Right, briefly go back to just a sort of conventional 4-2-3-1 starting formation, which we will never really see massively. But I'd say this is Pedro Neto here and not Gittins. And then, you could have maybe an Esteval or an Enzo Fernandez starting here that will choose a pocket once they're in possession, essentially. It won't be like a totally free number 10 because I've started Palmer on the left wing here, which we saw work really, really well. Everyone's like, well, Palmer's a number 10. No, he's a right winger. No one ever said left winger, but indeed we have seen him play surprisingly well on the left wing in a couple of games. Of course, it's horses for courses. It's dependent on the opposition. And largely what we saw him do really well there is because when Cucurella is playing in a role where actually he can get forwards a bit more, and we play like a back three here, and, you know, so the box midfields like that, kind of, in the end. Cucurella comes forward, we're attacking with the 5 like we've seen, we've got the box midfield, but Cucurella and Palmer have a really good relationship. Palmer can actually go out, chalk on his boots, Cucurella can come in, opposition are like, what the ruddy heck is going on here? And you can create high value chances. But Palmer as well, occupying that left pocket really well. And of course, it will be certain opposition. Maresca, again, like the top of the video, like the theme of the video, he will look at the opposition and go, right, these guys do this. They have a good player here. They've got a player there on that side, their right side, our left side, that Palmer can get past. And he won't like it if Cucurella is overloading. We're going to start Palmer on the left wing. And of course, a huge theme of this Chelsea squad building exercise is and will remain tactical and positional versatility, and that is hugely, hugely important here, because there will come times where you'll need to do it, and then you'll come up against these amazing football teams. You know, to be fair to Guardiola, he does innovate and change, but he does often he finds a team, he finds a style of play. If it is dominant, he'll stay on it for certainly a long period of time. Lots of teams do that. You know, Chelsea's Conte and Chelsea's Tuchel, even if we were found out slightly, it would go from like 3rd place to 5th place. It would never be like rattle. It would never be, or, you know, it'd still win a trophy. It would never completely fall off. And, you know, a very good system would be broken, but it wouldn't be as effective as it was before. And similarly, that's what, you know, Guardiola has done with going from small, diminutive number 10s everywhere to building a team of big boys, 4 centre-backs along the back, Erling Haaland up top. Do you know what I mean? Like, even like Gundogan, and even like De Bruyne has got a lot of strength. So he's changed the way he's played. But you will need this tactical versatility, even if you have ideals, because you'll come up against a PSG who are like loads of examples in European football. They're the best. Look at how they play. They're the best. They're the best. Because they have a way of playing. And they feel like they've worked out football. The Rubik's Cube answer, no matter what. They go, so you do this, you'll always win. Right? So you'll need... But despite that, there will always be that weakness in the Death Star. You know? And that's what Maresca will need to find out in certain games. And if he is the great manager we hope he is, which he's starting to look like he is, he will find a way to exploit the weaknesses of great teams, or even really just tricky opposition now, just mid-table Premier League sides. But he will need the tactical versatility to do it, and it would seem like this sporting hierarchy is giving him the tools, the freedom they're affording him the freedom to be able to execute these individual tactics for each game. Right, what do you think? Again, I don't have my coach's badge. I'm just a content creator that has a play around of what he thinks and what he sees. If you agree with me, if you find it interesting, let me know in the comment section. I'll be very keen to hear your thoughts. And yeah, man, thanks for joining me for, as always, daily content here on Football Therapy. So if you are a fan of the content and you find yourself returning and you're yet to subscribe, why not subscribe? Oh, my neck clicks, bro. Oh, getting old, dude. That's why that move, my body just cracks. Also, additional content on Football Yannick. If you've made it this far to the video, let me thank you firstly, and ask you gently to go and support the other channel, because I'm on 18,500 subs. I'd love to get it to 20,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. So if many of you are still watching and you haven't subscribed to Football Yannick, it's daily football content, non-Chelsea stuff. If you just like football, please do go subscribe. There'll be a link in the description, or you can just search Football Yannick on YouTube. Right, look after yourselves, enjoy the football, take care, peace.